The Hovis loaf in your kitchen carries one of the most powerful names in British food. Built on wheat germ, sold as proper, wholesome bread, it's boy on the bike advert woven into British memory. But behind that wrapper, Hovis passed from Premier Foods to private equity to financial trouble, and it's just been cleared to be taken over by the company behind Kingsmill. Here's the twist. That company had been losing money on bread for 14 years. The rescuer was drowning too. This isn't just a brand losing its way. It's what happens when a staple becomes a financial asset, and the heritage does more work than the loaf inside. Every figure here is documented. Subscribe. We do this every week. Let's start with how it began. It began with a problem that most people never think about when they pick up a loaf of bread. In the late 19th century, white bread was becoming fashionable. It looked cleaner, kept its colour better, and carried a sense of refinement that darker bread did not. But there was a cost. Milling white flour stripped away the wheat germ, one of the most nutrient-rich parts of the grain. The part that contained valuable vitamins, minerals, and oils was being removed from the flour and treated as a problem rather than as the point. That is where Hovis begins. The number that tells the founding story is 1886. That is the year Richard Stoney Smith developed the wheat germ process that made Hovis different. The challenge was not simply putting wheat germ into bread. Wheat germ contains natural oils, and those oils can spoil quickly if they are not handled properly. Smith's innovation was finding a way to preserve the value of the wheat germ and use it in flour in a way that could be baked at scale. This was not branding first and product second. It was the other way round. The product existed because it solved a real problem. White bread had lost something during milling. Hovis was built around putting that lost value back. That matters because the best heritage food brands usually begin like this. A genuine product improvement comes first, the trust comes later, the nostalgia comes last. Hovis did not become famous because someone invented a pleasant wrapper. It became famous because the product had a reason to exist. The wheat germ was the reason. The next number is 1890. That was the year the name Hovis was created. The company behind the patent held a competition to name the product, and the winning entry came from the Latin phrase homines vis, meaning the strength of man. That is unusually important because the name was not empty. It was not a random word designed to sound wholesome. It described the promise of the product, a loaf with the strength put back into it. Bread that carried something ordinary white flour had lost. That is the difference between real heritage and invented heritage. Real heritage begins with a product doing something worth remembering. Invented heritage begins when a marketing department tries to make an ordinary product feel older, warmer, or more meaningful than it really is. At the beginning, Hovis had the first kind. The name, the product, and the promise all pointed in the same direction. Wheat germ nutrition. Better bread. A loaf with a genuine reason to cost more than ordinary bread. That alignment is what later owners inherited. Through the 20th century, Hovis became part of British food culture. It was not just one loaf from one factory. Hovis flour and Hovis bread were sold through a wider baking system, with licensed bakers producing the bread across the country to the company's specification. That gave the brand something modern national bread brands often struggle to create: local familiarity. Hovis was a national name, but it still reached people through bakers, shops, and communities. It felt both big and local. That combination is powerful. It makes a product feel trusted before the customer has even read the wrapper. The brand then acquired its most valuable emotional asset. In 1973, Hovis released the advert that fixed the brand in British memory. A delivery boy pushes his bike up a steep cobbled hill. The bread sits in the basket. The music is a brass band arrangement of Dvorak's New World Symphony. The street was Gold Hill in Shaftesbury, Dorset. The director was Ridley Scott, who later became one of the most famous filmmakers in the world. The advert worked because it made Hovis feel older than advertising. It was not just selling bread. It was selling an idea of Britain. Hard work, warm kitchens, proper food, a boy earning his round, a loaf worth carrying up a hill. The number that matters here is not the cost of the advert. It is the memory it created. Decades later, people still recognize the image. Many people who cannot name the current owner of Hovis can still picture that boy and that hill. That memory became an asset. And once a memory becomes an asset, it can be bought, sold, and used long after the product that created it has changed. That is the first turning point in the Hovis story. The brand was no longer valuable only because of wheat germ. It was valuable because millions of people associated it with trust. The next stage was industrial consolidation. Hovis became part of Rank Hovis McDougall, one of the major names in British food manufacturing. That shift mattered. Hovis was no longer simply the product of a wheat germ innovation. It was one brand inside a larger food group. At first, that does not sound dramatic. Large food companies can protect brands, fund advertising, and maintain national distribution. But there is a trade-off. Once a brand becomes part of a portfolio, it has to compete internally for attention, capital, and margin. The question changes. It is no longer just, how do we make the best version of this product? It becomes, how does this brand perform inside the group? That question follows Hovis for the rest of the story. The next number is £1.2 billion. That was the approximate price Premier Foods agreed to pay for RHM in 2007, bringing Hovis into a group that already owned or controlled a large collection of British food names. This was the age of the heritage brand portfolio. Companies bought familiar names because familiar names carry trust. Mr. Kipling, Bisto, Ambrosia, Hovis. The logic was obvious. British shoppers already knew these brands. They already had habits. They already had memories. The owner did not need to build trust from nothing. It could buy trust that generations of consumers had already created. But debt changes the way trust is managed. When a company buys a large food group with borrowed money, the brands inside that group are not just brands anymore. They become cash-generating assets. They have to produce margin, not only to fund better products, but to satisfy the financial structure above them. That is the part most consumers never see. You see the loaf. The owner sees the cash flow. You see the wrapper. The lender sees the asset. You see Hovis. The balance sheet sees a brand that has to earn its place. That does not mean every change is immediately visible. It rarely works like that. The danger with heritage brands is slow drift, a little less distinctiveness, a little more cost control, a product range that moves away from the thing that made the brand famous, a wrapper that keeps telling the old story while the business underneath is solving a new financial problem. That is where Hovis starts to lose its center. Before we go further, this is the point where the people who care about what really happened separate from the people who are just watching nostalgia. The decline of a national food brand is rarely just a taste story. It is usually an ownership story, a debt story, and a supermarket power story before the customer ever notices it on the plate. If that is the kind of investigation you want more of, subscribe to UK Food Exposed, hit the hype button, and hit like. Every hype pushes this story to thousands more people who still recognize the Hovis name without knowing what happened behind it. Now back to the bread. The next number is 51%. In 2014, Premier Foods created a joint venture for Hovis with the Gores Group, an American private equity firm. Gores acquired a 51% controlling stake, while Premier retained 49%. That detail matters because control changed hands without the brand disappearing from the shelf. To the shopper, the loaf still looked like Hovis. To the business, Hovis had entered a new phase. Private equity ownership is not automatically bad. Some private equity owners invest, restructure, and rescue businesses that large corporations have neglected. But the model is financial by design. The owner buys a business, improves the economics, and eventually exits. In a high-margin software business, that might mean scaling quickly. In a low-margin bread business, it often means looking very hard at cost, factories, distribution, and product range. Bread is a brutal category. It is bulky, it is low margin, it goes stale quickly, it needs a national delivery network, it has to arrive in shops constantly, and it competes against supermarket-own label loaves that can be priced aggressively because supermarkets control the shelf. That is the trap Hovis was in. The brand had heritage, but heritage does not pay fuel costs. Heritage does not solve labor costs. Heritage does not make a national bakery network cheaper to run. Heritage can help a product command a premium, but only if shoppers still believe the product is meaningfully different. The wheat germ question now becomes unavoidable. Hovis was built on wheat germ. The original wheat germ loaf still exists. Current labels for Hovis original wheat germ show wheat germ as part of the product, and that matters. If a shopper wants the thing Hovis was founded on, that product is still the closest expression of the original idea. But the modern Hovis brand is much bigger than that loaf. The range includes standard white loaves, wholemeal loaves, seeded loaves, soft white products, rolls and other bakery products competing directly with Warburtons, Kingsmill and supermarket own label. In other words, the brand that was built on a specific nutritional innovation now supports a much broader range of ordinary sliced bread. That is not the same as saying Hovis contains no wheat germ. That would be wrong. It is saying something more important. The founding innovation is no longer the center of the brand in the way it once was. The Hovis name still carries the strength created by wheat germ, but much of the modern range is competing in the same industrial sliced bread market as every other national loaf. That is the quiet shift. A brand built on difference becomes a brand used to sell familiarity. The next number is 2020. That was the year Endless LLP acquired Hovis from the Gores Group and Premier Foods. Another ownership change, another financial owner, another transaction involving a brand that British shoppers still recognised primarily through memory, packaging and habit. By this point, the wider market had become much harder. Packaged sliced bread was no longer the unquestioned staple it had once been. Some shoppers moved to wraps, bagels, pitas and sourdough. Some reduced bread because of low-carbohydrate diets. Some worried about ultra-processed foods. Some simply bought cheaper supermarket own label because household budgets were tighter. The old model depended on volume. A national plant bakery network only works when enough loaves move through it every day. When volumes fall, fixed costs do not fall neatly with them. Bakeries still need staff. Lorries still need fuel. Distribution still has to run. Supermarkets still demand reliability. To understand why that matters, look at the scale of the industry Hovis was competing in. The UK bakery market is worth billions of pounds, and more than 13 million loaves and bakery packs are sold every day. Most bread sold in Britain does not come from small high street bakers. It comes from large plant bakeries, the kind of industrial operations that can supply supermarkets at national scale. That scale creates a strange contradiction. Bread feels local and simple. The business behind it is national, capital-intensive and unforgiving. A loaf of bread is heavy for its value. It takes up space. It has a short shelf life. It cannot sit in a warehouse for months like tinned beans or bottled sauce. It has to be baked, packed, delivered and sold quickly. That means the winners in the bread market are not simply the brands with the nicest story. They are the brands with the distribution network, the supermarket relationships, and the volume to keep the system moving. That is why falling demand is so dangerous in bread. A small drop in sales is not just a small drop in revenue. It puts pressure on factories, delivery routes, labour planning, and supermarket supply agreements. When a bread business loses volume, the whole machine becomes harder to justify. This is the machine Hovis had to survive inside. That is why the bread market can look stable from the outside while becoming extremely difficult underneath. The shelf is still full, the brands are still familiar, the price labels still look ordinary, but behind the scenes, the economics are being squeezed from every direction. Hovis was not alone in that pressure. Warburtons remained the strongest family-owned competitor. Kingsmill, owned by Allied Bakeries, was also under pressure. Supermarket own label kept applying price pressure from below. Artisan and premium breads pulled some shoppers away from standard sliced loaves from above. Hovis was caught in the middle, too famous to disappear quietly, too pressured to behave like the old brand people remembered. The next number is £75 million. That is the reported value of the deal for Associated British Foods, the owner of Kingsmill through Allied Bakeries, to acquire Hovis from Endless. In 2026, the Competition and Markets Authority cleared the deal. That is the modern climax of the Hovis story. The company that owns Kingsmill was cleared to buy Hovis, creating a much larger force in British bread. The regulator said the deal did not raise competition concerns because the evidence showed Allied Bakeries was in such a difficult position that it would likely leave the UK market if the deal did not happen. Think about what that means. This was not a triumphant takeover of a booming category. It was a rescue-shaped consolidation in a market under pressure. The CMA described a difficult position for UK bakeries, with declining demand and rising costs. Hovis itself had reported rising pre-tax losses from £3.6 million to £4.7 million in the year to September 2024. The deal also changed the competitive map. Associated British Foods already controlled Allied Bakeries, the business behind Kingsmill, Allinson's and Sunblest. Hovis also supplied branded bread and other bakery products across the country. Bringing those assets together did not happen because the bread market was healthy. It happened because two major parts of the market were under financial strain at the same time. That is the part viewers need to understand. Consolidation is often presented as efficiency. Sometimes it is. But it is also a signal. When familiar brands have to combine just to keep national bakery operations viable, the old market has already changed. The customer sees Hovis and Kingsmill as rival names on a shelf. The industry sees delivery routes, bakery utilization, supermarket contracts, fuel costs, labor costs, and a category where volume has become harder to protect. That is not the image on the wrapper. The wrapper says heritage. The business story says consolidation, losses, and survival. And this is where the fall becomes clear. Hovis has not fallen because the name disappeared. It has not fallen because every loaf is bad. It has not fallen because nobody buys it anymore. The fall is more subtle than that. Hovis fell from being a brand built around a genuine nutritional innovation to becoming one asset in a struggling, consolidating sliced bread market. It fell from a product with a clear reason to exist to a name competing for space in a category where the economics are increasingly punishing. It fell from the strength of man to the strength of the balance sheet. That is the real decline, not extinction, dilution. Here is the broader pattern Hovis illustrates. A real innovation creates a real product. The product earns trust. The trust becomes a brand. The brand becomes nostalgia. The nostalgia becomes a financial asset. Then later, owners can trade on the nostalgia even when the product range has moved away from the thing that created the trust in the first place. This is why heritage brands are so vulnerable. They do not need to be bad to become weaker. They only need to become less connected to their original purpose. A shopper sees Hovis and remembers proper bread. A financial owner sees Hovis and sees brand equity. A supermarket sees Hovis and sees a shelf negotiation. A competitor sees Hovis and sees market share. The customer is often the last person to realize the meaning of the name has changed. The franchise asset in this investigation is the founding innovation test. When a heritage food brand asks for your trust, ask one question. What was this brand originally built to do, and does the product in my hand still do that thing? For Hovis, the answer is wheat germ. If you want the product closest to the original Hovis promise, look for the wheat germ loaf. If you are buying a standard white sliced loaf with the Hovis name on it, you may still be buying perfectly usable bread, but you are not buying the founding innovation that made Hovis matter. You are buying the memory of it. That distinction matters. The wrapper can carry the heritage. The product has to earn it. Richard Smith solved a real problem in 1886. He found a way to preserve the nutritional value of wheat germ in bread at a time when white milling had stripped that value away. That innovation gave Hovis its reason to exist. The name meant the strength of man because the product had a genuine nutritional purpose behind it. The boy on the bike did not create that trust. He carried it. The advert worked because the product already meant something. The hill, the music, the bicycle and the basket turned that meaning into national memory. But memory is not nutrition. Nostalgia is not wheat germ. A famous advert cannot make an ordinary loaf more nourishing. That is the lesson. The British food industry is full of brands whose wrappers still carry the emotional value of a product that used to be more distinctive than it is now. The name survives, the imagery survives, the advert survives, the supermarket shelf survives, but the original reason to believe often becomes harder to find. Hovis is not just a bread story, it is a warning about every heritage brand in your trolley. If this video changed how you think about the food names you grew up with, subscribe to UK Food Exposed, hit the hype button and hit like. Every hype pushes this investigation to thousands more shoppers who still recognize the Hovis name without knowing who owns it now or what the brand was originally built to deliver. Drop a comment telling me which British food brand we should investigate next. Demand real wheat germ bread, not ordinary sliced bread wrapped in borrowed heritage.